Hello everyone! Welcome to another series of lecture in Introduction to Criminology. So, in today's topic, we will be talking about crime, law, and criminal behavior. So, balikan lang po natin ng kaunti ang topic natin na napag-usapan na natin in the previous videos and lectures po natin. Kung hindi nyo pa po napapanood, kindly browse on the playlist or scroll nyo lang po yung mga videos natin on our discussion regarding the topic crime. So, in this lecture, the students are expected to learn how to define crime in legal perspective. And also, the students are expected to understand the legal concept of crime. So, yan ang expectation po natin from the students. Now, what is crime? We defined that already many times in the previous lecture. So, again, we're going to define for the sake of discussion what is crime. Crime pertains to an act or omission. Okay, tignan nyo act or omission that violates the public law established by the society. Kung mapansin nyo, medyo iba siya doon sa definition natin in the previous discussion. Pero, the same concept. It is an act or omission. And that act or omission violates a public law. We have the two terms, act and omission. First, what is an act? Act pertains to any bodily movement tending to produce some effect into the external world. So we have a lot of actions, di ba? Like for example, eating, it's an action. Raising your hand, and so on. Those are actions. Breathing, those are actions. So we have physical or bodily movement, no, done by us that produce some effect to the external world. For example, I raise my hand like that, that is an action. Does it produce an effect to the external world? Yes. No? Especially if merong dumadaan sa likod mo, then you raise your hand and then he was punched in the face, then it produces an effect to the external world. So those are actions. Now, it does not mean that all actions are crime, but sabi nga, crime is an act that violates the public law. For example, raising your hand is not considered as a crime, since there is no law that punishes raising of hands. But if you raise your hand like that and somebody was punched at your back, was hit at your back, then that is already a crime defined under the revised penal code. Okay, physical injury or whatsoever. That is an action. Act pertains to any bodily movement tending to produce some effect in the external world. The second word is yung tinatawag nating omission. What is omission? Omission means no action, or it refers to a failure of someone to perform a certain act mandated by the law. So it simply means non-compliance to the mandate of the law. For example, the Motorcycle Helmet Act. The law says you wear your helmet when driving a motorcycle. But you did not. You did not comply. Then sabihin mo, bakit mo naman ako hinuhuli? Ano bang kasalanang nagawa ko? There is a law that mandates you wear your helmet, yet hindi ka nag-wear ng helmet. Magtatanong ka, bakit ka hinuhuli? Another example is wearing your seatbelt. Sabi ng batas, pag nag-drive ka, mag-seatbelt. Hindi ka nag-comply. That is crime by omission. Okay, so we have a lot of crime that we can think of that is considered as crime by omission. If there is a law that says you do this and you did not do that, that is a crime by omission. Act or omission. Act, physical action or bodily movement that tend to produce an effect to the external world. Omission or non-compliance to the mandates of the law. When is an act or omission be considered as crime? No? Kasi sabi natin, hindi naman lahat ng act or omission can be considered as crime instantly or immediately. So, an act or omission will be considered as a crime when, number one, the act or omission resulted to a harm. Yung tinatawag nating harm, ladies and gentlemen, it's either that's a physical harm, psychological harm, or financial harm. No? So yun yung tinatawag nating harm. Nasaktan ka ba physically? Nasaktan ka emotionally because of the certain action of that person? Then that is one of the criteria bago natin tawagin na yung isang act or omission is considered as a crime. Another thing, before an act or omission will be considered as a crime, when there is a law violated. Yan yung pinakamahalaga. Not all action are considered as crime unless there is a law violated. Ito yung reality. Even if you are harmed physically, emotionally, or mentally by a certain action done to you by another person, if there is no law punishing that action, then that is not considered as a crime. Last criteria is there must be mens rea. What is mens rea, by the way? Mens rea pertains to guilty mind in English translation. So if there is an act committed and there is a harm produced by the action committed, and there is a law violated by that action, then the mind must also be guilty. Because we have yung tinatawag nating accident. Yan. Baka naman kasi accident yan. For example, you are driving your car in a very cautious way of driving as possible. Then suddenly, there is a pedestrian lane. So you stop. Then, isang matanda yung biglang tumawid. Then you accidentally bump on your horn, producing a very, very loud sound. And because of that sound, the old woman passing through the pedestrian lane in front of you had a cardiac arrest because of shock. So, how would you consider that? There is an action committed, no? The action of the driver accidentally pushing the button for the horn, yung busina, is considered as an action. Because of that, there is an external effect produced, or the action produced an effect to the external world. And because of that, somebody was emotionally harmed. Because of that action again, the old woman died. Now, can we say that the driver has guilty mind? Do he have the intention to kill the person in front of him passing by doing that? Well, that would be very innocent action resulted into unpredictable result. However, under the eyes of the law, depends upon the lawyer who will argue in behalf of the driver, then we can say that he might not be guilty or guilty. So, depending upon the court of law to decide whether he is guilty or not. But can you consider him guilty of that action? Since first, there is a harm produced. Another, there is a law violated. If you're going to assess the action of the driver, would you consider that as a crime? I will leave that as your assignment. Next, we have here the two legal classification of crime. What are the two legal classification of crime? We have felony and offense. Okay? Let's talk about felony first. What's the difference between felony and offense? Felony pertains to an act or omission that violates the revised penal code. You will be discussing that on your criminal law book 1 soon. The nature of a felony is mala in se. And we have again another term, mala in se. What is mala in se? Mala in se are acts that are considered wrongful by its own nature, regardless if there is a law that prohibits that action. So ibig sabihin, the action is wrong by its own nature, regardless if there is a law that says, oh, that's wrong. Let's say, for example, the act of killing. If there is no law that says killing is a crime, would the act of killing be an acceptable behavior? Ang pagpatay ba, kung walang batas na nagsasabing bawal pumatay, ay magiging katanggap-tanggap na action? Is it acceptable action? So you assess. Ang pagnanakaw ba, pag hindi pinagbabawal ng batas, is not evil, is not wrong. Magiging katanggap-tanggap ba ang pagnanakaw if there is no law that says, oh, that's wrong? So, the answer is of course, no. Because regardless if there is a law that killing is bad, stealing is wrong, those actions are still wrong by its own nature. So they are considered as mala in se crime. And those types of crime are being punished under the revised penal code. And those crimes being punished under the revised penal code are classified as felony. The other classification of crime is offense. So ano naman yung offense? The nature of an offense is they are considered as mala prohibita, which means that the action are considered wrong because there is a law that says it is wrong. Mali yung isang bagay dahil merong batas na nagsasabi na ito ay mali. Like, for example, illegal logging. Is it wrong to cut trees? Of course, it is not. But since the law says too much of cutting trees is wrong, then that is already considered as a wrongful behavior. But if there is no law that says illegal or logging is prohibited, then the act of logging will not be considered as crime. Yung example natin kanina, driving your motorcycle without helmet. Is that wrong by its own nature? No, it's not wrong because the helmet is for your protection. If you don't want to be protected, it's up to you. But since the law says every riders must wear their helmet, then we must comply. And the nature of that action, if you violate the law, will be considered as mala prohibita or offense. Okay? So those are the two legal classification of crime. We have felony, mala in se, violation of the revised penal code, and we have offense, mala prohibita, the act is wrong because there is a law that says it is wrong, it is a violation of the special penal law. Another characteristic of felony is that it is committed by dolo and kulpa. So we have two new terms again. May bago na naman tayong pag-aaralan. So what is dolo and what is kulpa? Dolo simply means deceit, and kulpa simply means fault. When the action is intentional, it is considered as crime by dolo. Kung ang isang action ay pinagplanuhan at sinadya, there is an intent, then that is considered as crime by dolo. If the act is not intentional, however, it is produced by imprudence or negligence, the act will be considered as kulpa. Kasi kulpa means fault. Hindi niya sinasadya, pero nangyari. Culpable crime is not the same with accidental crime. Kasi sa kulpa, there is either imprudence or negligence. So, anong pinagkaiba ng imprudence or ano na naman yung imprudence and negligence? Imprudence pertains to the lack of skill of the person. So, default, yung pagkakamali is a result of lack of skill. For example, di mo alam magmaneho, pero sumakay ka sa kotse, pinaandar mo, umandar, bumarurot, may nasagasaan, may namatay. Do you have any intention to kill that person? None. Wala. Pero merong namatay, so there is a crime committed. Is that considered as accident? It is not accident. Bakit hindi siya considered as accident? Because there is imprudence, lack of skill from the accused. Merong action na ginawa si accused, no? And that action, due to lacking of skill, yun yung naging resulta. The other way to commit fault is due to negligence. Yeah, negligence. What about negligence? Negligence pertains to fault that is committed due to lack of foresight. Yung kanina, lack of skill. Wala siyang kaalaman. Ito naman is lack of foresight. For example, you are driving again. Yan, driving. Then, ang bilis-bilis ng pagmamaneho mo. Umuulan, madulas ang kalsada. Mabilis ka magmaneho. Then suddenly, at an intersection, merong biglang tumawid. Dahil sa mabilis ang takbo mo, pag preno mo, hindi tumigil at dire-diretso pa rin ang kotse at nabangga yung tumatawid. Again, in that case, wala yung tinatawag nating dolo or malice. The person did not plan to kill the person. He did not plan na sagasaan yung tao. And he don't have any intention to kill somebody. But because his action is a result of negligence, then the person is still punishable. Kasi nga, lack of foresight yung dahilan kung bakit nagawa niya yung action. Alam niyang madulas, alam niyang umuulan, at alam niyang pwedeng may tumawid, yet hindi siya nag-ingat. Therefore, his action will still be punishable as a culpable felony or culpable crime. Okay? So that is the difference between culpa and dolo. Pag sinabi nating dolo, yung crime, pinagplanuhan, intentional. Pag sinabi nating culpa or culpable crime, it refers to those actions or crime that resulted from negligence and imprudence. Pag sinabi nating imprudence, it means lack of skill. And then negligence is kulang sa pag-iingat. Okay? So that is the difference between the two. Last is we have the stage of crime. Yeah, may stage tayo of crime. This is applicable for felony. Kasi yung felony, it has stages. So we have attempted stage, frustrated stage, consummated stage. Maybe you heard of attempted homicide, attempted murder, and so on. So there is a distinction between those things. Ano nga ba yung sinasabi nilang attempted? Ano yung sinasabi nilang frustrated? Ano naman yung sinasabi nilang consummated? Simply, pag sinabi natin attempted, the criminal act is not successfully performed due to external factor. Gusto mo siyang barilin. However, pagkalabit mo ng baril, hindi pumutok. There is a criminal intent, there is a criminal act, yet hindi nangyari because there is an external factor that caused its non-performance. Sinubukan, pero hindi nangyari. Next is we have frustrated. Frustrated stage simply means the criminal act is successfully performed. However, it did not produce the expected result. Okay? So you want to kill a person, that is why pinagsasaksak mo yung tao. However, he did not die due to external factors na naman. So, pinagsasaksak mo na siya 30 times, iniwan mo kasi akala mo patay na, then nabalitaan mo kinaumagahan, buhay pa pala siya. So that is frustrated. No? Because you did already the action, you stabbed him already knowing that he would die as a result of your action, yet hindi siya namatay, then that is frustrated. Binaril mo sa noo, hindi siya namatay, then that is frustrated. Lastly is we have consummated. So consummated stage simply means the criminal act is successfully performed and the expected result was produced. Ginawa mo yung criminal act at nangyari yung gusto mong mangyari. So for example, gusto mo siyang patayin, binaril mo, namatay nga siya, that is consummated. These things will be discussed more on your subject, criminal law. But I'm just giving you an idea or introduction into the stages of crime, as well as the different legal aspect of crime. So I do hope that you learned something. I do hope that you are able already to define crime in its legal perspective and understand the legal concept of the crime. So we have the definition of crime. It is an act or omission that violates the public law. Act pertains to bodily movement that produce an effect to the external world. Omission means no action or non-compliance to the mandates of the law. When will be an act or omission be considered as a crime? Of course, when there is a harm, when there is a law violated, and there is a guilty mind. Then we have the two legal classification of crime, felony and offense. Felony pertains to violation of the revised penal code. It is malignant in nature. It can be committed by dolo and kulpa. Dolo means deceit. Kulpa means fault. Malignant means the action or the criminal act is considered as wrong by its own nature. We have here the types of culpa, culpable act. We have culpable act by imprudence, and then culpable act by negligence. Imprudence, lack of skill. Negligence, lack of foresight. And the three stages of crime: attempted, frustrated, and consummated. So that's all for today. See you next meeting.
갑자기 내게 나타나준 너, 난 아무 말도 할 수가 없었지. 첫눈에 반한다는 이야기가 널 보는 순간 이해가 됐어. 매번 야야야야야 불러 널 야야야야 내 맘을 고백하려고